Hey, business builders. Today we've got a great episode for you. We are joined by Rich Oakes, the president of GigSmart. GigSmart is an app. GigSmart is a website. GigSmart is a platform where gig workers connect with those who have the gigs, businesses, sometimes like yours. And Rich built this company along with his co-founders from a 40-some-ish page Word document. So he got that Word document that was envisioned by a student at Notre Dame University, and he took that document and they've created a company that right now is 50 people, and they've got thousands of companies across the country that are using the platform to fill gigs, deliver pizzas, have auditing done, have warehouse work done, inventory taken, delivery of goods and services. Sometimes people are using it to get their snow shoveled. It's a little bit hard at times to grasp the flow of people out there who are sitting at home with a phone, getting up in the morning or in the afternoon looking for a night shift and saying, aha, here's some opportunities in my area. I know that this is going on. I hear about the gig economy, but to really be able to grasp that large number of people who is looking for work on that platform, Uber, Lyft, DoorDash, and there's other ones too, it's really hard for me to comprehend. So Rich helped in this episode help me understand that. And I think if you can lean into the thought, what would you do if you had a 40-page document for your business plus some cash, and you were going to go create this thing from those two resources? What would you do? And maybe you've created 40-page documents before, or maybe you could create one now. I hope you enjoy today's episode with Rich Oakes. Welcome to the Business Builder Way podcast, where we help business builders grow leadership skills and wisdom and stay grounded through hero stories. So let's get after it. Hey, business builders. I'm really excited for today's interview. I'm joined by Rich Oakes. Rich, it's good to have you today.
Hey, thanks for having me, Wayne. Always good to see you. It's been a long time since we met, and it's always great to catch up, and personally and professionally.
Absolutely. And business builders, I met Rich back in the days when I was the vice president of sales and marketing of Preferred Warranties, and Rich was working for another company in the used auto space, primarily used autos. And he was also a vice president of sales. And this was before LinkedIn and other business social media platforms were prevalent. We didn't really know how to have an idea of whether we were doing well as a vice president of sales or not. And so even though we were kind of competitors in some ways, or there's some small ways in which we overlapped, we got together for lunch, and instantly it was like, I'm not alone. Here's another guy who loves leading people and building a sales organization. And we're probably not just going to throw all of our numbers exactly out on the table and give away all of our trade secrets, but it's nice to not be alone and have somebody else who's doing what we're doing. And of course, not only that, we ended up talking about being dads and talking about faith and talking about mission trips that you had been on and the churches that we were going to. I can remember it really well. So it's a treat to have you here today.
That was a long time ago. It's been a while. It seems like yesterday. And my favorite part is neither of us have aged a bit. So
right.
We're good.
Well, that's good. We rehearsed that ahead of time.
That's good.
So, and then to jump in the story and make it current, for business builders, Rich is a business builder. Rich was building a business in that other organization as the VP of sales. And then after leaving that company, Rich told me, you told me one day that, hey, I'm starting this new gig, and funny because Rich is leading GigSmart, which we'll talk a little bit more about. But you told me like, hey, I've got this 3-ring binder that's a well laid out business plan, and I'm going to move to Colorado, or I think at that time you were actually going back and forth. And I remember seeing these photos of you with cons on, or US Kids or something, with a sport coat because you were a cool startup CEO. But you built this, you've built this thing along with co-founders from an idea and a dream that was in a three-ring binder. And so could you just start us off by telling us a little bit about what is this that you've built today? You told me it was about 4 years. GigSmart. What is GigSmart?
Yeah, GigSmart is a staffing platform. Think about a talent acquisition tool for business users to literally find temp work, gig workers, and or advertise their permanent positions on our job board across industries. We specialize now across frontline industries. When you think about that hourly worker, that $15 to $30 an hour worker, those are the industries we're in. So hospitality, construction, restaurant, delivery, warehouse, grocery, dozens of industries where literally our clients, we have a couple thousand companies across all 50 states have used the platform, can literally put up what we call a shift gig, a temp posting within a few minutes, have applicants within seconds, and literally have someone stocking shelves, digging a ditch, working in housekeeping in a hotel within the hour. And so that started just over 5 years ago. I was approached by co-founders. It's a married couple and then their son, who literally put the idea together for GigSmart on about a 35, 50-page Word document. You mentioned a three-ring binder. That's probably what it was, while he was at Notre Dame. And those three co-founders shared the idea with me, and they said, hey, would you like to join us on this journey and help us with, I spend the bulk of my time as the president of the organization and our sales and marketing efforts. And so would you like to join us on this venture to build this, to make staffing faster, more cost-effective? Because let's face it, when you think about temp labor in temp agencies and many job boards out there, they haven't changed in decades. I mean, no one raves about that experience. When years ago when we met and we were in different industries, I had to use temp agencies every now and then, and it was slow and expensive. And you kind of did it because you had to. And so our co-founder said, hey, we've got an idea. Let's use technology. Let's make it easier, faster, more cost effective, and see if people use it, and maybe people will pay to use it. And here we are 4 years later since we've launched it publicly, with a couple thousand companies across all 50 states that have used it. And we continue to scale it up, month over month, quarter over quarter, as we kind of spread GigSmart across the country.
So I think your story of how you've built it, some of the good, some of the bad, will be really helpful to the business owners that we work with, who could be a landscaper with a handful of employees, or it could be, I've got to thinking of specific people, trailer sales company where they've got a sales team and a service team, or it could be somebody who just opened an integrative health practice. So I think your story of how you built it from that Word document will be helpful to them. And also, I'd like to share more about who are these people that come to you, because we could have listeners who have kids or friends or somebody who wants to be a gig worker. It's a new thing, right? Like the gigs we know about are being an Uber driver, or in some sense, having an Airbnb and running it out fractionally and using technology to open up a whole new world. We kind of get that, but who comes to you as a worker, and then who comes to you as the company that hires these people?
Yeah, well, the gig economy from a worker perspective, Wayne, the gig economy, the stats, the most recent stats, and they've really been accelerating over the last several years at a rapid pace. One of the fastest growing parts of our labor market is the gig economy. Okay. And it used to be years ago kind of reserved for the higher priced, higher skilled consultants, right? When you think about IT, when you think about marketing and the creatives. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't, and then it kind of went to ride share and food delivery. But now across frontline workers, from call centers to warehouses to restaurants to hospitality, it really is alive and well and growing very quickly. So who's a gig worker? It really is just about everyone. It's college students, retirees. You've got people supplementing in incomes, more than ever right now because of inflation in the current economic, trends we're seeing. We see people that are embracing gig work as their full-time kind of career choice. And what we hear from those types of people is they get to kind of choose every day what they want to do. They may do delivery Monday. They may work in a restaurant as a line cook Tuesday because they have that in their past experience. Wednesday, they may be unloading a truck in a warehouse. One thing I find interesting is for so many years, we have typecast. The American worker has been typecast. Hey, what do you do? I do this. Well, all of us are more than one skill. When you just think about yourself, right? Your experience, you were sharing an experience about construction. And then you're a VP of sales, and your life on the farm. I mean, if you wrote down all of your skill sets, you would have dozens of things that you're very proficient at. Okay, and the same for myself. So what we found is workers get on a platform, they have an average of 10, 11, 12 different skills on the platform, and they like the diversity of picking up different stuff depending on what they're feeling that day or that week. From a business perspective, we see, as I mentioned, a lot of companies out there, whether it's small, medium, or enterprise clients. A couple things drive their usage of our platform. The very first thing is maybe an influx of work activity, right? Maybe it's seasonal work, okay? Landscaping and snow shoveling. Well, there's not snow every day everywhere, and
Right.
You don't want to add 10 or 20 W-2 full-time employees if you can't keep them busy every day. So a lot of companies across the industries I mentioned will use us as seasonality and the need for their business kicks in. Others use us as our platform as an extension to their workforce because of turnover, absenteeism. They use our platform to supplement that. And as they're looking for permanent employees, and we've got a great direct hire program through our platform, that's probably one of our most popular features. When they find someone that does a great job for them, they're using them over and over again, they can convert them. And so it really is a tool that allows them to get, it's a talent acquisition tool in their pocket, whether it's on their cell phone, the app, or right there at their desktop computer, that they can use on the fly and source people very quickly.
So thanks for that, because I think we hear terms like gig economy, artificial intelligence. These things are all around us, and yet a lot of times I'm like, I don't have time to learn about all this and understand all these new things. Now I really sound old. So it's helpful to just see what is going on in your world and the flow of jobs and people and how that happens. And to add to that or color that a bit more, I feel like I remember seeing you post something that you went out and worked a few gigs, or you took some gigs off the app. So can you share a bit about that?
Yeah. I think that I encourage anyone on our team that, hey, take an evening, take a weekend, take it and pick up a gig. For me, it does a couple things. First of all, I'm using the very technology that our clients are using. So it's fascinating to use the technology and see the things that, wow, that works really well. I like it. And then there's other things that from me and others in our organization who have done gigs that gosh, that's a little clunky. If it's clunky for me, I work here, right? We know this thing inside and out. I bet you that's clunky for the field or people who are our clients using it. So gives us a chance to use the technology. It also gives us a chance to be front and center with our business users and also talk with other workers. It's amazing. The workers on our app, it's very common for workers to have multiple apps on their phone. They may have the Uber driver app. They may have the Instacart app. They may have the GigSmart app. And any given day, they're using a different app to pick up shifts whichever is more favorable for them from a schedule and a pay perspective. So it kind of gives us a chance to see what's really happening firsthand in the field. So it's always a interesting and fun experience.
What's a gig that you've done?
I did some auditing in a corporate for a corporate housing company. So I went in before travel nurses moved in. I went in and did some auditing in an apartment to make sure all the stuff's there, make sure the cable's on and the utensils are there and the kitchen's clean. And so that's just one example.
Nice. And I can imagine that, and at some point in the past, I had installed your app and looked around it, but like Uber drivers, I can see the rating of the driver who's coming to pick me up, or on Airbnb, even as a guest, I'm very protective of my score, and I tell my kids, like, we got to clean this place up. I don't
Yeah.
perfect rating, right?
Yeah.
So what is that like on your platform for gig workers? What can a business owner see about the people that they're bringing on?
No, it's great. We have a two-way rating system where the business at the completion of the shift, business rates the worker 1 through 5, 5 being the highest. Anything less than 3, we ask for feedback on why. And then the worker also rates the business. Businesses, they don't always love that, okay? Because it doesn't happen often, but every now and then I got to reach out, or the team's got to reach out to a company and say, hey man, whenever someone goes to this location and they work with Tony, the manager on at that site, everyone says he's a maniac, right? So hey, so can we work on that? And they're usually on it, and they can make adjustments, because come on, let's face it, we all gotta work for a living, and we want to work with good people. And so that ratings and review, we've found it's really good social proof to encourage everyone to just be good people.
Fascinating. Makes total sense. This might surprise you, but early in my career as a VP of sales and sales manager, I got a report that somebody had reported me to badboss.com. This goes way back.
Oh, well, with my, I think with today's sites out there, I think between the two of us and every other person that's led someone in their career, I think we're all on a site somewhere.
But yeah, I mean, that makes total sense. Why you would help, why it would be helpful, and you could help grow the staff. And then so the one other question about the people that comes to mind is, you said you've spent time with gig workers, and you're part of this gig economy. So it'd be really easy for a 47-year-old guy like me to be judgmental and go, oh my goodness, how could you make out, like, you should get a real job and just to have a career. And we know that that's different, but what is like, what's the benefit of being a gig worker, or what have you learned from gig workers about how they stitch all this stuff together to make a livelihood?
Well, hey, I understand, and it's very common, especially us Gen Xers, even the next generation up, boomers. Historically, many of us say, hey, get out there and get a real job, right? But the labor market's changing, without a doubt. The wants and needs of the American worker is radically changing. And here's what we see, and this is data from many studies, not necessarily GigSmart studies, but other major players in the industry, human resource groups that have done this research. Over, I think, close to 75% of those participating in the gig economy are participating because they want to, not because they have to. Okay, so is there a segment that, hey, I've lost my job, I'm down on my luck, I've got to do something to make a living? Absolutely, but that's not the bulk of the gig economy. What's driving people to embrace it at a higher rate than ever before are a couple things. Number one is the flexibility to work when they want. Okay, there are more and more people that aren't interested in putting in time off requests to Wayne and Rich. Okay, that's what we always did. Hey, I want to take time off, boss, can I? And there would be a yes or a no, depending on the time of year and the need and the right. Less people are interested in that nowadays. They they want to work when they work and they don't when they don't. And asking people like me and you for time off just isn't that interesting anymore. Okay. And so they appreciate flexibility. And then the second part is they're able to, in many cases, replace that income and make a very decent living on platforms, whether it be one or multiple, participating in the gig economy. So, the labor market, this is heavily being driven by generational change, obviously, younger workers, a lot of retirees as well, supplementing their retirement. And I don't think it's a short-term trend. I mean, these numbers have been moving this direction for many years. And obviously COVID accelerated them, and they continue to move at a pretty rapid rate. A lot of people participating in the gig economy.
I think it seems kind of fun. I like working. And so when I like working, like just period, and different things, as you pointed out, whether it's on the farm or old engineering stuff, I've always enjoyed working. So actually, when I saw your post about doing a couple gigs, I was like, oh, that's cool. Because it would be fun to me to go work at a pizza shop or go audit something. I'm fairly social, but I like work and I like variety, and
Yeah,
I can see why it would be attractive. I'm guessing you've learned. I gave you an example in the email that I sent you ahead of time of, let's say, a landscaper that's growing. They have a handful of employees. They need some help. I'm guessing that you've learned some things through watching this about how to best integrate a gig worker who has not, for example, worked for you before. Like, it has to lead to improvement in processes and training and clarity of roles. Is there anything like that you've seen or that you've learned about how to best be positioned to bring in a gig worker who has some skills that they've listed on their profile, but they haven't done your specific job before? Because you'd want them to get dialed in quickly, right?
yeah. You got to, keep in mind that, GigSmart's a platform, and what we're doing is we're allowing businesses across many industries to connect with independent contractors to fill a shift or two or 10, right? And so, when workers populate the platform through our acquisition efforts, we've got a team that are introducing them to the platform, making sure they understand how to utilize the platform, helping them fill out their profile. They can put their past work experience, populate their skills and so forth. And it really, whether I'm a warehouse worker or I'm a line cook or whether I'm a CNA or a delivery driver or one of these things, whether I'm a line cook here or a line cook there, being a line cook really doesn't change that much, right? And so what we have found is there could be slight adjustments, but as long as that worker has some decent experience in that skill, someone can pull them in, use them shoveling snow. Housekeeping is a great example, right? Put them with a team of housekeepers, because, I always make a comment. You think about every hospitality brand out there, they've all got their sticker and they got the special way to make the bed, right? Me and you as traveling VPs of sales have stayed in a lot of hotels, right? And so I won't say which major brand, but every one of them, hey, you make the bed our way, people sleep better, right? And so I always kind of chuckle that, hey, this person's got tons of housekeeping experience. They just haven't done it this brand yet. Stick them with a team of people for a few rooms. See how, the special way you fold it to help people sleep better. And, they pick it up pretty quickly. So it really is kind of that learning on the fly. If you've got the basic skills of housekeeping or line cook or digging a ditch or construction or delivery, you can do that just about anywhere for any brand, with a little, if you're put with a team and you look and figure out the way they do it with the special sauce, so to speak.
Got it. So let's go back to you get this Word document, and you're going to be the president. You're going to build this company. I use the model of the hero's journey on this podcast quite a bit. Like, you're the hero. You're setting off to travel the world or to build this thing, and along the way there are challenges and things you didn't anticipate that come in. So I want to talk about that journey a little bit, Rich. And so like just you share what has it been like to build this company? What are some of the stages? It's like you got to hire your first employee, or you got to hire your first leadership team member, you got to get your first 100 gig workers. What have been some of the stages?
All right. So I think the world needs more humility. I say that all the time. I have some Richisms that you've probably heard some of them over the years. One thing that I say frequently is the world needs more humility. I'm no hero at all. I can tell you that at GigSmart, that when I think about, hey, who are the heroes at GigSmart? I got a couple on list. Okay, first of all, we're funded by a family office. Okay, and that family office are the co-founders of the company, husband and wife team, and their son, who came up with the idea at Notre Dame and literally sketched this thing out on a Word document. And their commitment to this project has been unwavering. Okay, that's pretty heroic because many times startups don't fail because it's a bad idea. They fail because of lack of funding. Okay, so we have shareholders that are very committed to this project and very committed to making sure GigSmart is the brand we know it can be across the country. And the second set of heroes in the company is our team. We keep in mind that GigSmart today looks nothing like that original 35, 40, 50 page Word document. We have pivoted, Wayne, I'd say dozens of times, but it's not enough, hundreds of times, based on market feedback, user feedback. The product's come a long way. And we know that 6 months from now, a year from now, the product's going to come a long way. So from our co-founders, our funding part, who are funding the project, to the team, taking the feedback. I mean, when you start a product, a business, okay, maybe it's not a product, maybe it's a service, but in this case, it's a product and service, so to speak, and you're building it. And it's specifically for ours, a two-sided marketplace where I got to have the right amount of demand, right? Companies seeking workers, then I got to have workers. And if I get the workers and no demand, that's no good. If I get the demand and no workers, that's no good. And we got to figure that out, not just in Dallas or in Denver or in Philly. We got to now do that across dozens of states or cities, dozens of states, to get to the point where we now have over 700,000, workers on the platform, thousands of companies using it, and we've completed shifts in all 50 states. Very difficult. So the amount of feedback, and I call it feedback. Sometimes you can call it, sometimes feedback's not very, it's good feedback, but it's not very nice, right? It's painful to hear, right? And so you got to be able to get kicked in the teeth and smile and take the feedback and learn from it and just try to do better, whether that's from service or from product adjustments. And so it's the team that every day on the front line that's getting that feedback. And as an executive team, we're swallowing our pride. Okay, the world needs more humility to listen to the market, can't fight the market, and make the adjustments necessary to produce a better product and service for those who are using it.
I get that you're a tech company and you're creating something new. And so there might be something I ask you that you say, yeah, I'm not really going to talk about that. So that completely okay. But like, what is what you've built now? Who are the people? Like you've got clearly you would have developers, software developers who are coding, and so you mentioned people that are helping to onboard the workers and salespeople.
Yeah.
So what does that team of people look like?
Yeah, well, the bulk of our organization is broken up into let's see here, really, two primary groups. If you put sales and support kind of on one group, and then you put development, the engineers, and our product team on the other group. I mean, that's the bulk of gigs. I mean, we've got an HR function and the CFO function and things like that, but that's We have Mitch Catino, who's a co-founder. Mitch was working on GigSmart at Notre Dame. He is our chief product officer and our chief operating officer. He has done an amazing job running the development efforts with our CTO and our director of product to take the feedback from the market, from the sales team, and always evolve. They, like I said, in tech, people always say, hey, is it built yet? Are you done? I don't know if tech's ever really done, right? Because the market changes, adjusts, the wants and needs, if you're good and you're growing, I think the wants and needs of your clients become more sophisticated. We've got a very, very talented development product team that has kept us in the game and moving forward. And then the sales and marketing efforts. A lot of people trying to make calls, build relationships, and change the behavior of the marketplace. I think that's one of the toughest sales to make because you think about, I'm going to tell you an old story. This will date me a little bit. I had a friend in the early 2000s that was leading a sales team for Career Builder. Okay. Mm-hmm. And that was before Career Builder really hit their stride and hit it big. Okay. I said, hey, how's it going? In the early days, they said, it's going good, but it's hard. And I said, what's hard about it? And they would call people and they'd say, hey, we want you to advertise your job posts. You got plenty of job posts. I want you to advertise them on this website. And their biggest objection, people say, why do I want to advertise my job posts on a website? Because back then, you remember where you advertised job posts in 1999? Yeah, newspapers. Right? Yeah. People were like, I call the Cincinnati Enquirer, I call the whatever, and I put my job. And so they had to change consumers' behavior for decades. People called and put their job posting in the newspaper. And now I had to change their behavior to get them, they had to change their behavior and get them to post on a website. We're kind of doing the same thing. When people are short on labor, they do a couple of things. Their first go-to is I call a temp agency, or I post something on a major job board. Okay. It's just what we do. We've done it for decades. And so now we're going and we're making contacts and introducing GigSmart to people and saying, hey, there's a different way. And hey, by the way, there's not only a different way, but you have more control. It's faster. It's more cost efficient. And changing people's behavior is a very difficult sale. It's a no-brainer. Why wouldn't I want to do something faster, more cost-effective, right? But you're reconditioning them from decades of what they've always done. So
it takes a whole team to be able to build that. I remember I've had the opportunity to see you not quite annually the last couple of years. We got off, but in the early years when you moved to Denver, I saw you like 3 years in a row as you were building this thing. And prior to seeing you, so the first time I saw you, we met in a restaurant and you were in a co-working space, right? Like very close to that restaurant. And prior to that, I think your family was still in Cincinnati and you were flying to Denver, right? And living this startup lifestyle. What was that like? What was it traveling back and forth like?
For me, I had been accustomed because of my prior role of doing a lot of travel. So, it wasn't difficult. I can tell you that my travel today is less, and I appreciate that. I know you appreciate being home with the family more. So without a doubt, I appreciate it. For me, this was a pretty big leap to take the jump. I was talking to our co-founders at the time, and I was doing a lot of interviewing, and I basically reached out and said, hey, would you be a great reference for me? And they said, absolutely. But before you take anything, talk to us first. And so when I reached out to them and talked to them, they said, hey, we want to tell you about GigSmart. And that's when I learned about what Mitch had built on paper and said, we're going to build this. And so I'm not a tech guy, don't come from a tech background, but when I read it, I fell in love with it. I said, this just makes sense. I mean, I ran businesses for a long time and said that the market needs this. Not only does it need it, I think they're really going to want it. And so for me, those are kind of crazy times, to relocate your family 1,000 miles away from, we were in a community where my parents, siblings, my wife's parents, the cousins, Wayne, no one was probably further than 12, 15 miles away. I mean, it was,
Sure.
and it was very disruptive and very controversial, to say the least, when I said, hey, we're going to go this route and pack up and go. And not everybody was on board, but I can tell you, since we've been here, Denver is a wonderful place to live. This has been a great run, and we see it working in the marketplace. And it was without a doubt the right move. A challenging move on the family, but they're very happy today and very enthusiastic about the future.
We started off in that like co-working space, and then you moved, and the next time I met you was in, I'm assuming that's the same building you're in now. You're downtown Denver.
Yeah,
You're
it could be
down in the courtyard. There was Starbucks down there.
Yeah. Right here at we're in Denver Place. Is that the last time we met?
Yeah.
So yeah.
And I can remember on the wall seeing digital board with the count of how many gigs I think had been completed. That really stood out to me, because that was cool and fun to see how you were scoreboarding that.
Yeah.
And I can remember seeing a collection of bobbleheads of maybe it was key employees, like these custom bobbleheads. Right.
Yeah. I think I've probably even shared pictures on LinkedIn before. I'd have to check. And I'm not sure if we still have this program or not, but in the early days, what we would do is when someone hit a milestone in tenure, we would, we knew their hobbies and interests. So maybe they love pizza, or maybe they like to ski, or maybe they love dogs, or we'd take a theme that we knew kind of fit them, and they play the piano, and we would get a custom bobblehead made for them. And so in one corner of our office, we do have a whole hodgepodge of bobbleheads for those who are with us.
Nice. And so, another question I had about employees, so how would you describe your culture now? And you pointed out that your team are the heroes, as well as the founders who had this unwavering commitment, which is a great phrase. With your team, what's the culture like? Who comes to work at GigSmart?
Yeah, it is I would say it's very unique in this fact. And I'll preface by saying sometimes it's not a culture for everyone. Okay. And I'd say that about any company. Because every company is different. And for us, we're in this early stage where, we're not, there were in the early days, you said, man, we hope people will install it. Hope people will use it. Gosh, we hope people will pay to use it. We're way past that. Okay. We have thousands of companies who are using it, paying to use it, and we're just scaling it up now. But we're still in our early days. And when you think about, we believe GigSmart can be $1 billion brand. We believe GigSmart's an international brand. I mean, the gig economy around the world, it's really in its infancy in the States compared to other parts of the world. And so we're a hard charging group. I think there's 3 things that kind of make up our team, and they really stand out if you were hanging out in the office. You got to have a positive attitude to survive around here. Especially when you're building a product, you get a lot of positive feedback, but you get a lot of negative feedback. And when rather your product or service in the midst of that negative feedback, you just got to know that, the glass is half full versus half empty, and keep charging along. I just find it positive people, their outlook, regardless of how tough the day was, they just have this inner hope in knowing that tomorrow or next week will be better, right? If they keep pushing along. So it's a very positive group. They're a hardworking group. I find I don't think hard work is a bad word. I can tell you it's a little controversial. I mean, I think about 8-9 months ago, I saw something going around on LinkedIn where 70% of the votes on LinkedIn said, hey, hard work is associated with a toxic environment. I hope that's not true, because we hustle. I mean, when we think about, I've worked hard my whole life. I was a college athlete, paid for school, went to school for free because I was competing. That wasn't easy. When you think about, Olympic athletes, and you think about innovation and technology, and when you think about, some of the innovations in science and mathematics, these inventions, these things were all created by people that just worked really hard and failed a lot and kept working. And so we're a hardworking group, and we don't make people work hard, but they've kind of, like me, if you can't tell, I've kind of drank the Kool-Aid here. I believe in GigSmart, and I think this thing has a lot of room to run because it does amazing things for the marketplace. They really believe that too, and they put in the time. So positive, hard work, and then we're a group that's always learning. I'm a big believer. The smartest person in a room is rarely the smartest person in a room. And it's a group that's always asking questions, trying to figure out a better way, taking feedback, listening, and trying to figure out a way to take that feedback. And, even some of the impossible things that's like, wow, that's impossible. Well, how do we get halfway there, right? And so it's a group that's always learning. So it's not a culture for, there are people out there that they're just a big company person. I just want to work in a big company. I kind of want to put my headset on at 8, I want to take my headset off at 5, and I'll love it and do it. And they would hate it here, right? Because it's just, this is the 50 people that are here really have skin in the game, or are enthusiastic about being a part of the next big thing. If me and you were one of the first 50 employees at Facebook, Apple, Tesla, and here we are today, would our life be different? You bet it would. People on LinkedIn don't put X Uber, X Apple, X Amazon for nothing. They do that because they know the market. The market gives them a premium for being an X Apple, X Uber. One of the things that excites me is I know, as we look forward, GigSmart employees today, it's not the Supreme Court, Wayne. They're not going to die here, right? None of us are, right? There is life after GigSmart, right?
Right.
So one of these days, they're going to be able to put X GigSmart on LinkedIn.
Love
and
that.
It will mean something.
Love that.
It will mean something for them.
Yeah.
And if this can be a professionally life-changing experience for them, it's a pretty good deal.
That's really cool. To aspire to be a workplace like that is a pretty worthy true north.
But it's not for everyone.
Of course not. And I hope this doesn't step on any toes of people that have come before, but I can remember you telling me one day that, hey, I haven't been a tech CEO, but we were working on developing this code and it was taking longer than I thought it should. And I was like, wait, but I'm not a software. Rich Oakes is not a software engineer, hasn't led a tech startup before. This is new ground. So maybe what do you know? But you said, I felt like we need to bring in a little bit of Midwestern, kick it in the butt and get this thing done and kick it over the goal line. Do you remember telling me that, or did you not?
Yeah, we did. Yeah. Our co-founders and I, we were beside ourselves. Even our CTO. I mean, we were using some outside staffing or outside dev support, and it just wasn't going as quickly as we wanted. And so, just to get an extra set of eyes on it, we did. We hired a pretty impressive background, a technical consultant from the Midwest, and just sat down and said, hey, here, what you guys are doing here looks like it's going great. And that was one of the times where we made the decision, we stopped using outside development and we brought it all in-house. It was probably one of the best decisions we ever made. And that was just us. We kind of knew that was the right call. We thought it was the right call, but we got that extra being open to learning. We got that consultant to take a look at it as well, and confirmed it was the right call, and it was a great move because our CTO and Mitch, our co-founder, COO, Chief Product Officer, have built an internal team that is lights out. And an external dev team outsourced. Not when I say external, I'm not talking about remote. Okay, I'm talking about a dev shop that we've hired to build something.
Company.
They
Right.
can't hold a candle to the dev team that GigSmart's built.
Yeah. Well, I just think your whole story is fascinating. When I think about, like you said, developing demand within different geographies and then finding the workers to go fill the demand. And it wouldn't make sense to have only one company that's hiring people here in Pennsylvania where I live and 3 workers that are 100 miles away. So trying to scale that up simultaneously and working to do that at the same time that you have a limited amount of money from the investors, and what you have to go on is this workbook, and you're learning to be a tech president is really impressive. It's just a fun story. And I think it's a thing that can stretch the imagination when other business owners think, what would it be like to go do that? What would it be like to be in Rich's shoes and build in that way? You mentioned that you have 50 employees. So you've gotten to the point where you have 50 employees and you have all these workers on the platform. What do you do today? Like what is the president of a company that is on track to be $1 billion international brand where people say, I'm ex GigSmart, that's where you're headed, but now you have 50 employees. Like, what do you do?
I spend the bulk of my time on our helping with sales and our business development efforts with our enterprise clients. That is 90% of my day. It really is. There's nothing. We're at this phase where we've got a pretty slick product that a lot of people have used, a lot of people like, and there is nothing more important than continuing to spread the word of GigSmart. I always say we got to spread you got to spread the word of GigSmart, in the Holy Spirit, right?
Yeah.
There's nothing more important than that at this point. I mean, at this point, we are trying to scale this business, get more business users across the country. Our metrics continue to improve, and that's where I spend the bulk of my time. So when it comes to our enterprise clients, not only signing new, but also account management at a high level, right? I mean, I got an account manager team. I'm helping the team make sure we're growing those clients, adding new, and servicing them properly to increase our market share.
Got it. So I've got a scenario for you, and see what your ideas and input would be. I have a client who has a business type that we're all familiar with. He is a member of a family that has owned a funeral home for a long time. And so now here he is, he's about our age, and he's running this thing. And they've always been in this one location in this one town, and he would like to grow into an adjacent town. He'd like to have another location over there. And then he'd also like to branch into also doing the cremations, not shopping that out. So starting this new location, that he could create a vision, a document, a Word document, right? Just like what you're talking about. But it's scary when you've always been kind of in one location doing one thing to branch out like that and go somewhere new. So with what you've learned from building this thing from dream and concept to 50 people, and there's many stories like this, of course, of Main Street businesses. Some of them are your clients, right? Where they would like to grow, they'd like to scale, they'd like to have their own document. What advice would you give them based on what you've learned?
I think that another Richism. I'm going to apologize. It's kind of corny.
It's great. Bring them. I was going to ask you, what are the other Richisms that you haven't shared?
I always tell my kids. My dad's like, oh, my daughter's like, oh, my dad, you're a cringe dad. When I say my corny.
Good, then you're doing your job.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Don't try to eat the apple in one bite. Because you choke on it, right? I mean, when you eat an apple, you eat it one bite at a time. And so when it comes to a business plan, it really is putting together something that looks reasonable, you've shared it with some people who are mentors and or people that you rely on in business for feedback, that looks directionally correct. And then, you don't build it all tomorrow. I mean, it takes time, it takes money, it takes resources, right? But you can start building. And so, we have there, I can say for myself, sometimes whenever I try to eat the apple in one bite, it just doesn't go well. So one step at a time. And when it's not the right step, fail fast and try something else. And through, like I said, the GigSmart product today is radically different than the GigSmart product we launched with 4 years ago. And it's as you get feedback, as you get data, as you get different things, tweak the plan. Once again, this is not written in stone. This needs to be directionally correct. And as you're navigating, eat the apple one bite at a time. And as feedback comes in, as pivots come in, as market opportunities come in, as customer requests come in that maybe could be an adjustment, but it makes sense to adjust, allow yourself some flexibility.
I think that'll be one of the key things that I take out of this episode. Is you mentioned earlier that you get feedback, you look for feedback, but sometimes it's not nice, but within it, there's truth.
Oh yeah. I mean, like the world needs more humility, and to be a business builder, in my opinion, you have to be a humble soul, because to think that anyone, I don't care what industry it is going to build something and launch it perfectly the first time is insane. And by listening, I think you make a lot of progress really fast. You just got to listen and make the adjustments. And come on, let's face it, for A-type personalities that are hard driving, building businesses, that sometimes that's hard to do. But it's so important and so critical for success.
Last question is, how do you take being on this journey and hard driving towards that destination? And you and I talk about family, and as we started this before I hit record, we were talking about you've been married for a long time. You made this move from Ohio to Colorado. You care very much about your children. How do you integrate being this president who is busy and really in it with family life and taking care of you and maintaining your mental, spiritual, and physical health?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I mean, anyone that says it's easy is lying, or they're just way better than me. It's not easy. I mean, it's hard, and it's a constant battle. So I have to be very intentional with my time. When I'm with the girls, I got to be with the girls. And I also have them tied in to kind of the vision and the goal, which helps, right? One of the things, Wayne, me and you saw this a lot, and this has always haunted me, quite honestly, as VPs of sales. Me and you have jumped on many planes traveling around the US, and I'd be 35, 36, young buck jumping on a plane one morning to fly somewhere to do business, and I'd see this older guy or older woman jump on the plane, all decked out in their suit. They'd have their briefcase, and I'm thinking, man, they need to be retired, right? Like, they're still doing this. And I just remember thinking, I don't want to be in retirement age jumping on flights for business meetings. Now, I may change my mind at some point, maybe I will, but
sure,
I would like to be in a position to have a choice, right? And so for me, I've kind of tied them into the goals of why I work hard, and what that means to them. But I have to be very intentional and take time to. I don't miss sporting events. Okay, I mean the business is business, but I make sure that I get out of here early when the kids are in events and things like that to be there. I don't want to be an absentee parent. My own mental health, my spiritual, you know me, I'm a pretty spiritual guy. Both of us are, and we've shared a lot personally over the years. I still have to maintain that stuff because that's important to me, but it's challenging. I mean, it's just hard, and it's a constant daily battle of just being intentional to make sure I'm kind of juggling it all. You've seen spinning the plates, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think you're going to have to interview someone else with great tips, and maybe I'll watch that podcast because
Well, I think
is something that I'm always working on.
I think humility and being honest about it is where it starts. And I did a mastermind call earlier today with my people, and one of the guys just celebrated like a grand opening of his facility, right? And that's wonderful. And we ended up talking about the fear and the anxiety that goes with it, and the sometimes thinking like I just have to work 24/7, but that's not what it's all about. So I think it starts with being honest, talking about it, and not acting like you got all your shit together, right?
Yeah.
You have people that you have people that you can talk to about that who also get it.
I do. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I've got a great network, and you being one of them. When we do connect, it's always very fruitful. We've shared some tough stuff together over the years, and that's critical to have, is that tight circle.
It is interesting how I have a handful of people in my life. You're one of them who I don't talk to you every month. Thankfully, with social media, I get to like see you in your bathrobe with a Lions Not Cheap hat on. Shoveling snow.
Who doesn't shovel snow in a bathrobe every now and then, right? It's
but then on the occasions when I connect with you, like instantly, there's things that we have in common, and it's good to have a place to go with those things. Well, anyway, this has been really wonderful. Thanks for taking your time with the business builder community. Is there anything? I mean, I think GigSmart, I can, in today's world, I can go Google GigSmart and I could find you pretty quickly. But anything else you'd like to share about how somebody who's interested in your business could get started with you?
Yeah, it really is gigsmart.com. It's that simple. Whether someone is signing up to be to start a worker account, they can create that account in a matter of minutes and have a number of options to opt in for background checks and motor vehicle record checks and things like that. That just allows them to be eligible for more gigs than less gigs. We have both kinds on our platform. And then from a business perspective, very simple to create an account, create an org profile, and every business account has to be approved by our onboarding team. So they'll get a call and go through a series of quick and easy questions, and literally can be up and running in an afternoon using the platform. So very simple.
Great. Rich, what size, you say this on video and audio, what size t-shirt or sweatshirt do you wear? We'll send you an honorary BB Camp bit of merch.
No, that'd be great, and I'll be sure to share it. Do you believe that I'm an extra small?
I do. I believe anything that you tell me.
Weighing 2X. I'm working on it, man. It's a new year. You got to give me a little time.
2X takes a lot to fit in all those muscles from the gym.
It does. Yeah. Right.
Hey, thanks a bunch. Go get them, Rich Oaks.
All right. Thanks for the discussion today, bud.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Talk soon.
Thank you for tuning into the Business Builder Way podcast. If this episode spoke to you, click that subscribe button and share it with a friend. That's how this message gets out into the world. If it is helpful for us to have a short conversation, I'd love to do that. Send me an email at wayne@businessbuildercamp.com.